Pick a place. Now, in your mind, just go there. Think about the details. What's around you? Or even who is around you? The world, in earnest. The place you picked is most likely interesting or engaging in some way. There are probably various things littered around that caused you to pick this place. Maybe there are beautiful paintings on the walls. Or a beach. Something that spoke to you. Think about its je ne sais quoi. Consider this place. I'm assuming there was some reason you picked this particular place, but I can guess that you found it engaging, unless I'm otherwise mistaken. Alright, keep this place in mind as we get started. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, in which we will be discussing why I actually really enjoy the world design in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. To do that, I need to build a little context from the franchise, so let's talk about the original Kingdom Hearts first. In Kingdom Hearts, the map design of the worlds is overall pretty good. Certain areas can be confusing. I know Halloween Town got me when I was younger. I didn't figure out how the Graveyard Gate was sort of in a notched out area from the town, so I felt like I was just wandering around until I found it every time. There are some generally confusing worlds, sure, like Atlantica and Hollow Bastion, or End of the World. Those can be pretty confusing, but they're that way for a reason. It's the endgame, and they're supposed to be more navigably challenging, as well as feel quite large. Generally though, the design is overall pretty good. I personally like the platforming that the first game has to offer. It isn't by any means great, but I enjoy platforming, and even though it's a bit flawed, I enjoy it here too. The worlds are noteworthy and reasonably populated with interesting and engaging content. I like walking into the second district and seeing the Gizmo shop and the bell tower on top of it. The alleyway is an interesting location for all of its hotel doors. It seems like an actually cool place to just spend some time. I like the treehouse. It's big and fun to explore. I like walking into the bizarre room from all kinds of different angles and discovering new entrances to it. The original Kingdom Hearts has worlds that feel interesting. There are things to do, even if it is just hop on stuff. That's okay, hopping on stuff is fun. They are fun to explore because you feel like you could find something that you never have before, just around the corner, by just trying weird interactions with the world and seeing what happens. It is mysterious and cool. The worlds feel alive and detailed. So how did they evolve this in future games? Well, people complained about the platforming of the first game, so in Kingdom Hearts 2 is just practically removed. They did bring back an emphasis on movement and the Cavern of Remembrance, but the base game is devoid of practically all platforming. How does this affect the world design? It makes for flatter, less varied worlds for the most part. I've heard Kingdom Hearts 2 described as a series of hallways, and I would generally say that is correct. I'm sure there are exceptions, but for most of the game you just walk from place to place. No tree climbing or vine swinging, no weird doors on top of mushrooms that lead you to new versions of old rooms. The level design is much less interconnected, and much less engaged. That's just not much of a focus anymore. Which to me is sad, but where Kingdom Hearts 2 does succeed is that the rooms are still interesting. When you go somewhere you feel like it's a spot that's worth it to render. Like, it makes sense to have an area at a crossroads between the mountains and the Emperor's Palace in the Land of Dragons. It's a set piece. Kingdom Hearts 2 still has the set pieces, even though the areas don't push exploration in quite the same way. Later games would bring back platforming like Dream Drop Distance, but that felt sort of hollow because you can just endlessly jump off the wall, save for certain circumstances. 3 brought it back in a more meaningful way, and I don't know how anyone feels about this, but I feel like the worlds in 3 are a blend of Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2 and Dream Drop Distance, but in a good way. I like the worlds in 3. Outside of those 3 games, I find Birth by Sleep's world design to be similar to Kingdom Hearts 2, but somehow with less in the way of set pieces for areas, but distinct areas nonetheless. The other games generally recycle old maps after that, so whatever I said is pretty much going to apply. So why do we talk about all that stuff? Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories and Re-Chain of Memories has practically none of that. But I love it. So let's talk about why. Chain of Memories was a Game Boy Advance game, so it was necessary to have simplified world design for the players to easily parse and navigate. I can't even visualize something else as a Kingdom Hearts game on the console from a practical perspective. It made a lot of sense for rooms to look like, well, cubes. Everything is easily visible. nothing is obscured from the camera, and this perspective works really well on the Game Boy Advance. When remaking this game to PS2, it didn't really make sense to bring back the old proper rooms of the original Kingdom Hearts. The whole moment-to-moment gameplay system was built on the modular room system, so they used the assets made for the first game to remake those same simple rooms, and the result is this. On the Game Boy, it didn't really feel weird at all because it just made sense to do it that way on a handheld. But now we have a fully 3D world rendering functionally 2D rooms, and it just feels empty. Whenever I walk through a world and rechain of memories, I feel like I'm the only person in the world besides Heartless. But it's still so obviously a part of the worlds we've seen before, just not a part that we have seen before, and that's why I love it. Rechain of Memories inadvertently creates a liminal space. It still feels like those other rooms exist in this world, especially because they appear in cutscenes and boss fights, but you never get to play them in a proper way. To say Kingdom Hearts 2 is a series of hallways is to say the rooms aren't that playful, but to say Rechain of Memories is a series of hallways is totally correct, functionally and practically. What you explore in this game are the areas that aren't worth exploring. There was a reason we wouldn't have seen these before. The other games were showing us interesting places, but here in Rechain of Memories, they're just not. It's a game made up of a series of innocuous locations between the iconic rooms we actually care about and are actively shown, but we don't get to play in a conventional sense. So, I hope you've kept that place we talked about before in the back of your mind. Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories would not have that place. The original Kingdom Hearts would, 2 might, 3 potentially, but you would never walk through a room like that in this particular game, and that's because, in line with the themes of the game and its plot and the timeline, Chain of Memories is a liminal game. It's the game between Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2. The characters are having a liminal experience. Castle Oblivion exists in a liminal realm between worlds. The game is all about between. So why do I love it so much? I love innocuous places. I love seeing rooms that don't matter and nobody cares about, because in a way it makes the worlds in the first game feel bigger. There's much more world out there, you just didn't see it yet. I was so happy when they expanded Traverse Town, one of my favorite worlds in the series, in Dream Drop distance, but I already felt like I knew it was bigger than what we saw, because in Chain of Memories, we saw some of the other rooms and got to feel more of the world out there. The experience I got from Chain of Memories is the same one I got from the backroom photos. This is an empty space. I'm alone. It's Sora exploring the rooms between the rooms. They're rooms people don't go to, they go through. I just love that they make the first game feel even bigger in retrospect. I understand if people don't agree because the designs are still flat and pretty boring, but that's exactly what I love about them. They are just interesting, just designed enough to feel like they have some place in the world, but they aren't somewhere something noteworthy would happen at. This is especially true of the combat rooms. When you begin combat, you end up in a new place that actually has enclosed walls, but is not any specific area from the first game. This looks like the 3rd district of Traverse Town, but clearly it isn't. We know what the 3rd district looks like, right? This game, with its additional rooms, kind of proposes that we don't. Maybe the 3rd district in the first game is just a single room of the whole district. This room also claims to be a part of the 3rd district. Here in Wonderland, you can see that there's clearly more to the Lotus Forest than we had thought. You could already feel that it was kind of endlessly large in the first game, but now we can see a little bit more of what that has to offer. There are times in Kingdom Hearts 1, and especially 2, where the exit to a room is implied not to be the immediate entrance of another room, and Chain of Memories' rooms feel kinda like the thing you would see between the two. It's just really cute to see so much more of each world, even if it is totally innocuous. It makes for a more realistic world in conjunction with the first game. As a fun little addition, the devs seemingly knew that these areas were kind of boring, so to try to liven things up a little bit, they made it to where there are lots of things in an area that you can just hit with your Keyblade, which is fun, and it makes the worlds feel more interactive. Just look at this combat room. It feels like Kingdom Hearts 1 level design from an alternate universe. The assets are all pretty much reused from the first game with a few exceptions in each world, but the environments are all new. This room fits in perfectly, as if it was always a part of Kingdom Hearts 1, but It is of course nowhere to be found in the game. Like I said before, it's even more noticeable with the combat rooms due to their nature as complete and enclosed areas. The area may be flat and boring, but somehow the room just beyond the combat arena looks kind of interesting. I'd like to go over there and check that out. Climb those platforms, find those chests. I just kind of love that almost the whole game could be featured in any Austin video. And it kind of reminds me of that YouTube video where someone fed the notes to the first part of Green Hill Zone's theme into an AI, and it generated the rest of the notes. Only it didn't come up with the original song, it came up with something new. It made music that was all technically correct, and fit the first part of the song, without being correct per se. The difference here is that it feels like a soulless extension, whereas what is here in Rechain of Memories is soulful. It feels like they're trying literally everything they can to maximize what they can get out of a non-existent budget. We'll use all the old assets, but we'll make a few new ones and then remix everything back together to create new content. It's just really fun to see someone try to do that. Kind of feels like a weird mod in that way. I love it that it's the space you don't normally see because it completes the world in a new way. In animation, there's a concept called keyframes. Those frames are where the extreme poses go, the big action points. But you have to transition between those, and that's where you get these frames, called Inbetweens. They are given a little less thought and care because they're just driving you to the next major point. They just aren't supposed to be thought about. This game is all about the in-betweens. I hope you enjoyed this little walk through an often maligned game. Maybe you can appreciate it more. Maybe this video made you hate it even more. I don't know. But I had fun sharing it with you. Despite Kingdom Hearts being my favorite franchise, this is the first time I'm making a video about it. If you liked it and want to see more, let me know. If this video reaches 100 likes, I'll make another Kingdom Hearts video on another topic that interests me. If you have interest in Wii Hidden Gems for whatever reason, well, you can find a playlist of those here. If you want to try to stick with Disney-related stuff, I have a very serious Disney theory playlist right here. With all that being said, thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Jesus loves you, and so do I. Tune in next time, and goodbye.